by the removal of the doubts raised against it. And it should be known as being different from the body, the self different from the body, ever pure, self-effulgent. That's the nature of the self. Self-effulgent. Swayam Jyoti. That is a Sanskrit word. Swayam Jyoti. Self-effulgent. Similarly, also, by nature, identical with constant intelligence. Continuous, unbroken intelligence. That's the nature of that reality. And superlative bliss, infinite bliss, is the nature of that reality. That has to be established through reasoning. And reasoning is always based on experience, on facts. A science is based on facts. We have these facts, waking, dream and sleep. Let us study them and find out whether this ultimate reality of Brahmanas non-dual, ekameva, advitiyam, Brahma, whether that can be established satisfactorily. For this purpose, the present section is introduced. This wonderful third chapter of book 4, which we are dealing today. The story is meant to indicate the method of imparting and receiving the instruction. The story context is given for the exposition of the subject. That's only to give a certain kind of concreteness to it, a human touch to the whole teaching. Then the text begins, very interesting beginning text. Janakam havaideham yajnavalkyo jagama. Yajnavalkya went to Janaka, the king of Videha, northern Bihar. That is the first sentence. Yajnavalkya went to Janaka, emperor of Videha. Samene nabadishya iti. Yajnavalkya decided, I shall not give any talk, any instruction. He took that decision when he went to Vivekananda's palace. Aaj kuch nahi kahunga, chupchap baitunga. That attitude he took. Ataha yaj janagatscha vaideho yajnavalkyascha agnihotre samudate tasmaiha yajnavalkyo varam dadav. Earlier, on an occasion, when both of them are present at a sacrifice where they were having a particular type of sacrifice, he says, Agnihotra sacrifice, Yajnavalkya had given a boon to Janaka. Janaka said, give me a boon. He had given. Did that Tasmaiha Yajnavalkyo Varam Dadau. Yajnavalkya gave him a boon. What is that boon? Saha Kama Prashnameva Vavre. I want to ask you a question according to my own heart's desire. You must reply. That is the boon. Yajnavalkya said, okay, I shall give you that boon. That boon he had kept in his pocket of Janaka. He didn't use it on that occasion because they are dealing with rituals and ceremonies, these kind of sacrifices. That's not a place to deal with this subject. So he did not use it. He said, now I have an opportunity to use that boon to get answer from Yajnavalkya. Though when he entered, he said, no questioning now. I'll keep quiet this time, he said. But then he says, Tam hasmai dadav. He gave that boon. Tamha sambradeva purvam papracha. Accordingly, the emperor asked Yajnavalkya, I have got this boon from you. I am going to use it now. So you cannot keep quiet. Okay, Yajnavalkya had to agree. He has promised a boon. So I shall give you answer to your question. The subject is very, very important from this point of view, though the context is so human and so beautiful. Yajnavalkya went to Janaka, emperor of Videha. He thought he would not say anything. Now Janaka and Yajnavalkya had once talked on Agnihotra, and Yajnavalkya had offered him a boon at that time. He had begged liberty of asking any questions he liked. Yajnavalkya had granted him that boon. So it was Emperor Janaka who first asked him this question. Now comes the question. The subject is very, very interesting. I'll give you only the statement of this question, but before that, there is Shankara's commentary, something very interesting coming from that commentary. He says, Yajnavalkya, although he had resolved not to say anything, explained whatever Janaka asked. Why did he act contrary to his original intention? The answer to this is given by the story here related. Sometime in the past, there had been a talk between Janaka and Yajnavalkya on the subject of the Agnihotra sacrifice. Now, Agnihotra, every household used to keep Agnihotra in ancient times. That's the only worship. A small fire is burning, and we generally keep it burning, and we consider fire as a symbol of the divine. That is the Agnihotra. Probably you have got so many names, Agnihotra, Tatacharya, all these names you have got, all comes up. Agnihotra it is called. Very interesting ceremony. Universal in Vedic times. Today there may be one or two somewhere in India. All the rest has disappeared. And one gentleman from Maharashtra wants to revive it. And he has gone all over the world, Germany, all and everywhere, reviving Agnihotra. And he has found Westerners accepting the idea. He has made Agnihotra Kunda, a vessel and fuel, and then showing it to the West. He met me in Holland some years ago. He had already given that idea to several people there. It is good to have Agnihotra. Daily let us do. But in India, it has become what you call overwhelmed by new methods of worship, new methods of spiritual life. So it is no more current coin. The principle of Agnihotra. In Andhra, we had only one or two families some time ago. I don't know whether they are still there. So at that time, Yajnavalkya had asked for this boon during discussion on the subject of Agnihotra. Shankara says, Janaka thereupon had begged him the liberty to ask any question he held. Yajnavalkya had granted him the boon. Janaka, who first asked him, although Yajnavalkya was in no mood to explain and was silent. Therefore, he asked this question. He did not ask at that time. Subject of Brahman, subject of Agnihotra. They cannot go together. That is a ritual, ceremony. How can this profound subject be done at that time? So Janaka had kept quiet at that time. It is not the effect of anything, this Brahman. By ritual ceremony you cannot achieve Brahman. You can get only a place in heaven. All through our literature you will find, by all the rituals, you will get a place in heaven, nothing more. And the Smritis also say, heaven is full of people who have done rituals and ceremonies and developed merit, punya in this world. That is the nature of heaven. And there is a temporary place. When the capital is over, you have to return back again, start a new life, and that goes on. Gatragatam kama kama labante. Gita said, going, coming all the time. That's what we do based on mere ritual. From that, the Upanishads developed the concept of jnana. Later on, bhakti. When this bhakti and jnana came, all these rituals of sacrifices, they became very much devalued. Pure love of God, that is the most important thing. Knowledge of God, very important thing. These two are great developments in India. They also devalued heaven and gods. Why should I go to heaven? I can realize it here. The Atman is my nature. The Lord himself comes as a human being. Therefore, human life is sacred. Because in a human form, you are Krishna, you are Rama, you are Buddha. So this concept of bhakti and jnana devalued heaven and philosophies and theologies connected with heaven in India. Though even today, many people may be hankering to go to heaven, not knowing that it is not a very wonderful place, except you have nothing to do there, only diplomatic life, constant attention to what you call parties, cocktail parties from morning till evening. That's called heaven. You get tired of it after some time. And so, thousands of years you may be there, but it's an empty life, nothing creative, mere pleasure, pleasure, pleasure. Our people considered it so in the Upanishad and the Gita and in the Bhagavatam. They said it is only fools will like to go to heaven and live like that. Here in this very India, in this body, we can realize heaven. The Vaikuntha is within us. In fact, a devotee of God is called in Bhagavatam Vaikuntha Priya. Vaikuntha Priya is the name of the devotee. Who is dear to Vaikuntha means Vishnu. The devotee is dear to Vishnu. That devotee is here in this earth. So, it is so difficult to see gods in temples. But it's more difficult to see a real devotee of God. Tatrapi durlabham manye Vaikuntha Priya darshanam. To see a true devotee in whom God is shining. What a blessed thing it is. Who cares for heaven and all that? So in the Bhagavata there is a complete repudiation of heaven. By whom? Not by human beings here, by gods there. In their conference, they decided this life is empty in heaven. They would rather be born as citizens of India, which is a holy land. We can work out our destiny, realize the divine in our heart. So, gods are praying at the end of our heaven life, when all our punyam will get exhausted, with a little remainder of punyam, let us get a birth in India. That's what they are telling there. So here, in the Upanishad, we started this ritual, ceremony, all these are purely worldly. It's only in this very sensory life, nothing more. This sensory life, heaven also, is still more extended sensory life. That doesn't solve the problem. Let us understand the truth. What is real nature of man? What is his greatness? And they discovered the immortal behind the mortal human being. So here itself, you get freedom. You get realization. Ihaiva, ihaiva, ihaiva. Here itself. There's a language in the Upanishads, Bhagavata, and the Bhagavad Gita. And now, he says here, what was the question that was asked? The first question I present before you today, and then other things follow. Yajnavalkya, kim jyotirayam purusha iti? Aditya jyoti samrad iti hovacha. Aditya nevayam jyotisha aste palyayate karma kurute vipalyate iti. Evametat Yajnavalkya. Yajnavalkya, what serves as a light for a human being? That is the only question. Now we are dealing with the subject of light, a most important subject in science and philosophy today, light. A world without light, no life can ever come there. Light is the most important thing. And so what is the nature of that light? By what light do we live? The first question that is asked. Then the answer came. First answer, the light of the sun. Okay, so far as the solar system is concerned, that is the source of our light, source of the sun. Yajnavalkya, what serves as a light for a man? The light of the sun. Aditya jyotihi iti. Aditya jyoti. Said Yajnavalkya. It is through the light of the sun that a human being sits, goes out, works, and returns. That's the answer. Yajnavalkya said, you are right. Just so. So number one. Now other questions begin to come. More and more. The next question is, naturally, Yajnavalkya's question. But before that, I shall read the commentary of Shankaracharya. What is the meaning of raising this question? Why did you raise this question? By what light a man lives? You want to see this body. Is there anything as a principle of light within this body? Of course, we do find our eyes can see, our sensory system can experience. They all seem to have some light. But where does this light come from? These investigations are to come. To introduce that investigation, this subject has been presented here. This is Yajnavalkya. Janaka addresses him by name this time. Yajnavalkya. To draw his attention. What serves as the light for a man in this world, which he uses in his everyday life? The question is about the ordinary human being, not only heavenly being, nothing. Just X, Y, Z here in this world, says Shankara. with head, hands, all the limbs, etc., etc. This ordinary human being, what light makes him live and work in this world? First question. Does he use a light extraneous to his body? Here's the question. Other than the body, outside the body, does he utilize any light? Is question. Which is made up of parts, or does some light included in this aggregate of parts serve the purpose of a light for him? This is the question. Something external or something consisting of the parts of the body, a light with that he is able to live. Then the question, what difference does it make if he uses a light extraneous to his body or one forming a part of it? What difference does it make? That is one question. And Shankara answers, a profound difference it makes. Says, listen, if it is decided that he, by his very nature, has to use a light extraneous to his body, then with regard to the effects of a light that is invisible, we shall infer that they are also due to an extraneous light. An invisible light also is something extraneous. If the visible light is extraneous, by which we live, then the invisible light, if it is there, that also must be extraneous to this body. If, on the other hand, he acts through a light not extraneous to the body, but part and parcel of himself, and then, where the effects of a light are visible, although the light itself is invisible, we can infer that the light in question must be an inner one. In order to decide this, these questions are asked. External, internal, apart from the body, within somewhere in the body. Then if it is the body or if it is something within the body, all these questions will come. If, however, there is no restriction as to whether the light which a person uses is within or without himself, then there is no decision on the matter of the light. Whether it is here or there, it will be anywhere, there is no question of decision on the question. Thinking thus, Janaka asks Yajnavalkya, what is the light for a human being? Then Shankara says here the thing that is to be inferred, the grounds of inference and their various relations are so subtle that they are considered a puzzle even for a number of scholars, not to speak of one. Therefore, it is for this reason that, you see the wonderful statement coming, that in deciding subtle religious matters, deliberation by a conference is better, where several minds can put their heads together and find out the truth. Scientific conference. How many subjects are discussed in scientific conferences? One scientist will say something, then second scientist will say something, then they call a conference. Put the subject there, a debate. That is how truth shines better and better. Shankara says it 1200 years ago. In deciding subtle religious matters, as also physical matters, deliberation by a conference is sought. A good deal also depends upon individual qualifications. A conference may accordingly consist of 10 persons, or 3, or 1. Therefore, though the emperor is skilled in reasoning, yet it is quite proper for him to ask Yajnavalkya, because people may have varying capacities for understanding. Or it may be that the Shruti itself teaches us through the garb of a story by setting forth a mode of reasoning in conformity with our ways of thinking. This is the importance of putting this question from one to the other. Yajnavalkya too, knowing Janaka's intention, decided to teach him about the light of the self. Whatever be the question he asked, because it is a question on light, Yajnavalkya wanted to teach him the light of the self, which is described in all of the literature as the light of all lights. Jyotisham Jyoti. All of the lights are only a pale reflection of the one light that is there, the light of all lights. To introduce that, Yajnavalkya utilized this question of, Janaka, about the subject of light. Yes, self, that is other than the body, the light of the self, other than the body. and took up a ground of inference that would establish this extracorporeal light other than the body. That is what we want to establish here, that the body by itself is not enlightened. Some light is there that makes the body full of light, the sensory system full of light. Some light is there. We are in search of that light. Let us begin thereby. Sri Ramakrishna used to tell children, go to the kitchen. There a pot is kept on the fire with water and pieces of potato. And children say, Mother, potato is jumping, potato is jumping. Mother will say, potato has no power to jump. Fire below makes it jump. Similarly, this body has no power by itself. There is some other energy within. To inculcate that, that example was taken there. It says, the ground of inference, this extracorporeal light other than the body, this material body, which is born out of nature outside. Chemistry and physics are combined together, create this body. This itself cannot explain itself. Its functions need explanation from something other than the body. That's what today neurology is going to prove. But Shankara is dealing with it then. They say, for instance, he said, the light of the well-known sun, O Emperor. First answer to the question, how? It is through the light of the sun, which is outside his body and helps the function of the eyes, that the ordinary man sits, goes out to the field or forest, and going there works and returns the way he went, the light of the sun. The use of many specifications is to indicate that the light is well known to be essentially different from the body. You see that? Same. Light remains the same. Your actions are various, but light remains the same. The light doesn't become various because your actions are various. That remains the same. To establish that, these various activities were mentioned. Citing of many external lights is to show the ground of inference is unfailing. Whenever the body works, the light outside helps it. That must be fully understood. It's not in the body. It's not of the body. But it is apart from the body. For the time being, it is inside the body. That's what he is going to say. Finally, when the body is dead, he will give the example. The body is dead, there is no more light in it. If the body has light, even in death it should have light. But it is not body light. Some other light is there. That is how the subject is presented. The first question, then a second, a third, and fourth. Finally will come that conclusion. The Atman, the infinite Atman, the self, of the nature of pure consciousness. Consciousness is the light. That's the conclusion coming to by the great scientist today. The light of consciousness. How many conferences are being held in America and Europe on the subject of consciousness, the principle of light, principle of awareness, what the nature of that. All that will find this subject absolutely relevant today. Therefore, we shall continue this question and answer session on the most vital subject of today next Sunday, when we deal with the other questions coming from Janaka. We shall spend a minute in silence and then disperse. We were studying the discussion between Janaka and Yajnavalkya on a very important theme, whether in this human body is there anything non-material. If everything is simply material, including mind, thought, soul, everything is material, that's called materialism. And Yajnavalkya instructs Janaka that there is something non-material, spiritual, the self, that is being discussed with arguments very similar to modern materialist arguments. Very similar. The word materialist is used also. Those who believe in naturalism. Everything is natural. The body is self-contained. There is nothing else in it except the body and the organs. So that was the subject that was introduced with that statement. By what light do men and women live and work in this world? That was the question that was asked. And the first answer was given, the light of the sun, Aditya Jyotisha. That means a light other than this body. With that light, we function here. Even our sense organs need that light, an external light. So the main point is, it is external to the body, apart from the body, and later on it will be told, but it is within the body. Ultimately it will come. But these lights are all external to the body, beginning with the sun. So the first question is answered like that. Now the second question, Janaka is asking, Astamite Aditye Yajnavalkya Kim Jyotisha Eva Ayam Purusha iti Chandrama Eva Asa Jyotir Bhavati Chandrama Vesaiva Ayam Jyotisha Aste Kalpalyate Karma Gurute Vikalpayate iti Eva Metat Yajnavalkya. Same discussion, same answer. When the sun has set, what serves as a light for a human being? The moon serves as his light. It is through the light of the moon that he sits, goes out, works, and returns. Just so, said Yajnavalkya. He was satisfied with that second answer. Then comes the next one. When the sun and moon have both set, what serves as a light for a man? Again, the question comes. The fire serves as his light. Another beautiful answer. It is through the fire that he sits, goes out, works, and returns. Quite correct? Now comes still further. When the sun and the moon have both set, fire has gone out. What serves as a light for a human being? Further question. Speech, that is sound, serves as the light. Many other senses also, including odor. All that is included in the word speech or sound. Is telling the answering here. It is through this light of speech that he sits, goes out, works, and returns. Therefore, O Emperor, even when one's own hand is not clearly visible, if a sound is uttered, one manages to go there. Just so, Yajnavalkya replied. Up to this, the subject has come. And here, Shankara explains it. Sound here, speech, that is sound, which is the object of hearing, stimulates the ear. This gives rise to discrimination. Through that, man engages in an outward action. That is what is said here. It says, when a sound is uttered, for example, in thick, dark night, suddenly a dog barks or an ass brays. One manages to go there. You can locate the place, you can go there. So guidance you get through sound. That is the example given. It connects the ear with the mind. That sound connects the ear with the mind. And it recognizes that is the place to go. The speech or sound does the function of a light. Then, with the help of that sound, man actually goes there, works at that place, and returns. The mention of light or mention of sound includes also odor and other senses also, which are similar. So having said this, next comes the question. Astamite aditye Yajnavalkya Chandramasi astamite Shante agnau Shantayam vachi Kim jyotishayam purusha iti. That is the question. When the sun and the moon have both set, fire has gone out, speech has stopped. Yajnavalkya, what serves as the light for a human being? Now comes the main answer there. Atmanesha asya atmaivasya jyotirbhavati. His light is the Atman, the self. Atmaivasya jyotirbhavati. Atmanaivayam jyotisha aste palyate karma kurute vipilyate iti. The self serves as the light. It is through the light of the self that he sits, goes out, works, and returns. Just so, Yajnavalkya Janaka said. Here, the discussion begins, because it is the most important subject in today's philosophy in the West. Is there anything non-material in this material universe? On that depends the whole nature of life and civilization. If there is something non-material, then you can have religion, you can have higher life, everything. And so, on this question and its answer hangs the fortune of humanity. So Shankara says there, when the eyes and other organs, which are outgoing in their tendencies, are helped in the waking state. Remember the word. In the waking state, the eyes and the sense organs are helped by lights such as the sun. Then a man virtually immediately lives and moves in the world. So we see that in the waking state, a light extraneous to this body, the light that gives light to the body is something extraneous to the body. Body doesn't show the light itself. Extraneous to the body, which is an aggregate of parts. Body is not a unity, it's an aggregate of so many parts. That is one of the important statements in Sankhya and Vedanta. Serves as a light for him. From this we conclude that when all external light is blotted out in the states of dream and profound sleep, no sun is there, no moon is there, no fire is there. Take those two states, in dream and in sleep, as well as in similar circumstances in the waking state. Here also we get sometimes blot out our consciousness, the waking state also. In such states, none of these lights can have of any help to you. So, a light is extraneous to his body, serves the purpose of a light for him. We see also that the purpose of a light is served in dreams, as for instance, meeting and parting from friends, going to other places, and we wake from deep sleep with the remembrance that we slept happily and knew nothing. That means the seer was there, the light was there, even in deep sleep, to be able to say, I slept very well. So, remembrance of that even is carried. When you have remembrance of a thing, you must have first an experience, then only you can remember. And the experience means the one who experiences is the same who experienced, who is now remembering. They are not two separate, then there will be no remembrance. Or remembrance comes from the same person who experienced the thing. Otherwise, remembrance has no meaning. So, this is how Shankara discusses this profound subject, as I said, which is so topical today. He discusses it 1,200 years ago, and the Upanishad nearly 4,000 years ago. Very important subject, rationally understanding the nature of the divine, something beyond the physical, something changeless. Body is changing, something changeless. That is a search all through the Upanishad. There is a, etc. Therefore, when you come from sleep, how do you report it? A classical statement in the Upanishad is, Sukham aham aswapsam, naham kinchit abedisham. That's the report. Anybody's report is the same. I slept soundly. Sukham aham aswapsam. I never remembered anything. I never experienced anything. Naham kinchit abedisham. No second thing I knew in that state. I was all by myself. And I am very happy. Extremely happy in sleep. This is the language of report about experience of sleep. Therefore, there exists some extraneous light other than the body. There is some extraneous light in dream, in sleep. It is also there in the waking. That is going to say, but in the waking state it is interfered by other lights, like sun and moon and stars, etc. You can really study the subject merely based on the waking state. That's why the whole Western philosophy, based entirely on the waking state. Result is they cannot go into the deeper realm. When you go beyond the waking state, study the other two states, then you get some new results. That's what India did through this Avasthatraya investigation, the three-state investigation. Yes. What is that light which acts when speech has stopped? There is a question. Reply is being given. The self serves as his light. Atmana esha jyotisha aste. Through the Atman light, you are able to live and function. By the word self is meant that light which is different from one's body and organs, eye, ear, nose, and the body, different from these, there, and illumining them like external lights such as the sun. It illumines the body, it illumines various activities of the body, apart from the body. As in the waking, also you find sun and moon extraneous to the body, helping in our understanding and work, etc. But itself is not illumined by anything else. The self illumines dream and sleep, but it is not illumined by anything else. Self-illumining, that is the nature of the self. Yeah. On the principle of the residuum is a rule in logic, what they call parisankhya, parisheshat nyayat. Parishesha, in remainder, nothing more is left except this. That's called the residuum in logic. By the principle of the residuum, it is inside the body. In dream, when you see light, certainly no external light is there. So it must be inside. Within this body, it is there. Number one. It has already been proved that it is different from the body and the organs. And we have seen that a light which is different from the body and organs and helps their work is perceived by the organs such as the eye. The eye is able to perceive through that light. But the light that we are discussing, the self, is not perceived by the eye. The external light, the eye can see. It can see the sun, it can see the fire. But the light, internal light, the self, the eye cannot see. That is something wonderful. Many places in the Upanishads, that subject is discussed. Kena Upanishad, that which the eye cannot see, but whose power helps the eye to see, that is Brahman. Kena Upanishad repeats it again and again. Yeah. But the light that we are discussing is not perceived by the eye when lights such as the sun have ceased to work. However, we see that the usual effects of the light are there. We conclude that it is through the light of the self that he sits, goes out, works, and returns. This is the conclusion there. Therefore, we understand that this light must be inside the body, because in dream and sleep, nowhere else there is light. Any amount of external light will be of no help to you there. It must be within the body. Somewhere within the body, there is a source of light. We are in search of that. This is a big search of the human mind. It is different from lights such as the sun because it is immaterial. It is not part of the body, it's immaterial. That is why, unlike the sun, it is not perceived by the eye and so forth. The eye, I can see with the eye the sun, but not the light of the Atman. I cannot see with the eye. So, this is the Shankaracharya's or the Upanishad's position. Now comes a materialist of the time, a naturalist. And today you find many such objections they bring. They don't avoid all these objections. Tell what you have to say. We are prepared to deal with the matter. Now an objection from the materialist. No, for we see that only things of the same class help each other. You are wrong to state, as a proved fact, that there is an inner light different from the sun, etc. Why? Because we observe that the body and the organs, which are material, are helped by lights such as the sun, which also are material. So the same class can help each other. You are bringing a new class of entity. We don't accept that. Here you see, body is material, sun is material, material can help material. It's perfectly logical. The other is not logical. That is the objection. Here too, you must infer in accordance with observed facts. Suppose that the light that helps the work of the body and organs is different from them like the sun. Still, it must be inferred as being of the same class as these, for the very reason that it helps them, as is the case with lights such as the sun. Don't bring in an extraneous factor. Same class can help each other. If that is satisfactory, why bring in a new element? That is the way materialists have argued at that time, and today also. Your statement that because it is internal and is not perceived, it is different from light such as the sun, is falsified. In the case of the eye, for lights such as the eye are not perceived and are internal, but they are material just the same. They are material, the eyes are able to see, but they are material. They receive light of the sun, that they are material. So when a material thing can explain, why bring in an immaterial entity? Objection. Therefore, it is only your imagination that you have proved the light of the self to be essentially different from the body. It is only the body. Body, sense organs, brain, that is enough. Nothing more is needed. That is a materialistic view. Just imagine what tremendous thinking took place ages ago on subjects which today we are discussing with the most serious interest. That is, as the existence of the light in question depends on that of the body and the organs, it is presumed to possess the characteristics of the latter. Whatever light is there within has a characteristic of the body and the organs. Nothing new. Your inference being of the kind that's not based on a causal relation is fallacious because it is contradicted. This, how the eye, which according to the materialist reveals the body, is not different from the body. It reveals the body, but it is not different from the body. Therefore, your argument is fallacious. You establish the light in question, the self, to be different from the body and the organs, like the sun and so forth, being different from the objects they reveal. Besides, now comes very scientific principles being stated. Perception cannot be nullified by inference. Pratyaksha cannot be contradicted by anumana. Pratyaksha has primary status. Anumana has secondary status. This Shankara often expresses it. And we see that this aggregate of body and organs sees, hears, thinks, and knows. It is the body that does all these things. If that other light helps this aggregate, like the sun, etc., it cannot be the self any more than the sun and the rest are. Rather, it is the aggregate of body and organs, which directly does the functions of seeing. That is the self, and none else. For inference is invalid when it contradicts pratyaksha or perception, direct perception. We can deal with the whole subject of human experience based entirely on the material system called the body. We can explain everything. That's how they will say. And today we use the word reductionism. Reduce everything to physics and chemistry. Everything is based there. Whatever you may do, everything is based on that. So this kind of reductionism is quite strong, but not as strong as it was